The floating palace of Zephyrah glimmered under the twin suns. Its towers rose like crystal spires above the endless clouds, reflecting light in colors that shifted with every angle. The people below admired their royal family, proud of their traditions and the strength that Zephyrah had shown for centuries. But inside the palace, the princess, Lyra, felt isolated. Unlike other members of the royal family, Lyra was not concerned with showing power or following old customs. She was curious, thoughtful, and deeply interested in ideas that could protect her people. But for this, the council and her advisors often scolded her. They called her ideas reckless, strange, and weak. Lyra tried to explain herself, tried to show that her plans could save lives, but she was always met with rejection. One bright morning, she walked through the palace gardens. Flowers that glowed softly in the alien light surrounded her. Floating walkways stretched across the gardens, suspended in the air with invisible energy. Lyra moved carefully, watching as small robotic caretakers tended the plants. Even the air seemed alive with energy, yet it could not comfort her. She felt as if she were an outsider in her own home. The council had dismissed her most recent plan. A fleet from the neighboring planet, Draven, had begun to threaten Zephyrah's outer colonies. Lyra had suggested a strategy that could protect the colonies without risking many lives. But the council favored a traditional attack. They claimed her plan was too unpredictable, ignoring the lives at stake. Lyra clenched her fists, hiding her frustration. She had always believed that her duty was to protect her people, not to gain approval. But rejection hurt, especially when it came from those who were supposed to guide her. She wandered the garden, lost in thought, until she heard a soft voice behind her. "Princess Lyra?" She turned to see a human standing near a floating fountain. He was tall, with short brown hair and calm brown eyes that seemed to study her carefully. His name was Alex, a diplomat sent from Earth to observe Zephyrah's defense plans. Humans were rare on this planet, and most aliens treated them with curiosity or suspicion. But Alex looked at her without judgment. "Alex," she said softly, unsure if she wanted company. "I heard about your strategy for the outer colonies," he said, his voice calm. "It makes sense. It could save many lives." Lyra's eyes widened. You agree with me?" "I do," Alex said. "It seems practical and smart. You're thinking beyond what others are willing to see." For a moment, Lyra felt a small spark of hope. Here was someone who understood her, even if the council did not. She looked away, trying to hide her relief. I want to do what is right, but everyone thinks I'm wrong." Alex stepped closer. "Sometimes the right choice is the one that nobody else is willing to take. You're brave, Princess." Lyra felt a warmth in her chest. It was strange, this connection with a human. She had been lonely for as long as she could remember, surrounded by people who rejected her ideas and mocked her curiosity. Yet here was someone who saw her for who she truly was. Over the next few days, Lyra and Alex met in secret. She showed him parts of the palace and gardens that no one else saw. He listened carefully, asked questions, and offered suggestions. Together, they found small ways to help the colonies without drawing attention. They sent secret messages, guided patrols, and quietly improved defenses. Each success brought Lyra a little joy, a little confidence that she had not felt before. One evening, as Zephyrah's twin moons rose, Lyra and Alex watched from a balcony high above the clouds. Below them, the city glowed with soft light, peaceful and unaware of the danger approaching. "You've done so much," Alex said. "Even without the council's support, you're making a difference." Lyra shook her head. "I couldn't do this alone. I'm glad you are here." He smiled, but there was seriousness in his eyes. "You don't have to face this alone, Lyra. You have someone who believes in you." The words made her heart race. She had been rejected by her own people for being different, yet this human, someone from a distant planet, believed in her. And for the first time, she allowed herself to feel that maybe, just maybe, she could trust someone completely. The next day, the council finally noticed that some of the colonies had survived attacks that should have been devastating. They were suspicious. Who is responsible for these strategies? One advisor demanded. These are not our standard protocols. Lyra stayed silent, but Alex's presence reminded her that she had allies. She knew revealing the truth could anger the council, but she also knew that hiding her work could risk the lives of many. Quietly, she continued her guidance through secret channels, always careful, always precise. One night, a warning came. Draven's fleet was approaching faster than expected. Panic spread through the city. Alarms echoed, lights flashed, and the council scrambled to prepare. Lyra felt her chest tighten. She could not let fear take control. She turned to Alex. "We need to act now," she said. "If we wait for the council, many will die. Will you help me?" Alex nodded without hesitation. Always. Together, they coordinated a daring defense. Small, fast ships were guided through hidden paths in the clouds. Mines were deployed in unexpected locations. Signals were sent to colonies to prepare shelters. Their plan was risky, but it was the only chance. The first wave of Draven ships approached, expecting an easy victory. But Lyra and Alex's strategies were precise. The enemy fleet was confused and disorganized. Many ships were forced to retreat or were damaged without Zephyra losing a single colony. When the battle ended, the city below cheered for survival, though few knew who had truly saved them. The council, however, was furious. "This is not the way of Zephyra," one advisor shouted. "A princess cannot act without approval." Lyra felt a mixture of triumph and sorrow. She had saved lives, yet she was still rejected by her own people. She walked to the edge of the palace terrace, staring at the glowing clouds below. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of loneliness. Alex approached quietly. "You did what was right," he said. "You saved people. You were brave." Lyra shook her head. "They will never accept me. No matter what I do, I am different. Rejected." Alex placed a hand on her shoulder. "Maybe they cannot see your worth, but I can. I do." Her heart skipped a beat. For the first time, Lyra felt seen, not as a princess, not as a leader, but as herself. And in that moment, a new thought took root in her mind. Perhaps if her people would not accept her, she could find connection and meaning somewhere else. Perhaps the human beside her could be part of that future. She looked up at Alex, the twin moons reflecting in her eyes. For the first time in her life, she allowed herself to hope. And in that quiet, glowing moment above the clouds, she realized that courage was not only in battle, but in trusting someone when the world had rejected you. The stars above Zephyra shimmered like tiny diamonds, and Lyra felt a spark of determination. She would not let rejection define her. She would find a way to protect her people, and maybe, just maybe, she would find someone to share her life with, someone who truly understood her heart. And so, as the city below slept under the twin moons, Lyra and Alex stood together, watching the stars, planning for the days to come. The battle had been won, but a greater journey had only just begun. The skies above Zephyra were calm, but the tension in the palace was far from over. Lyra could feel it in every glance from her advisors, in every whisper behind closed doors. The council was still furious about the way she had defied them, yet their anger could not undo what had been accomplished. Hundreds of lives had been saved, and that truth could not be ignored. Lyra walked quietly through the floating gardens early the next morning. The flowers, glowing softly in the rising light, swayed with the faint currents of wind. Alex was already there, waiting. He greeted her with a small smile, one that brought warmth to her chest even amidst the cold shadow of the council's disapproval. "Good morning," Alex said. "I have updates from the colonies. Some areas still need attention. If we act quickly, we can prevent more loss." Lyra nodded. "Let's move quietly. The council will not like it if they find out we are still intervening." Together, they set out on a mission that took them far beyond the palace walls. Using hidden transport routes and small unmarked ships, they traveled to remote colonies where the Draven fleet's earlier attacks had caused fear and chaos. The colonists had been terrified, but Lyra's interventions had given them hope. When the princess arrived personally to oversee repairs and protection plans, The people began to whisper about her courage, even if the council still tried to suppress her influence. Alex watched her as she spoke to the colonists, giving clear instructions and calming frightened families. "You have a gift," he said quietly once they were alone. "You inspire trust without needing to command it. That is something rare, even among humans." Lyra smiled faintly but shook her head. "I only want to help them survive. That is all." Alex leaned closer. "Sometimes that is enough. And it is more than most can do." Their bond grew steadily with each mission. They learned to communicate without words, reading each other's movements and intentions. When a sudden storm arose in the outer colonies, their quick thinking and teamwork saved an entire mining settlement from being swept away by wind currents. It was dangerous work, and Lyra's heart raced not only with the thrill of the challenge but also with the closeness she felt to Alex. One evening, as they rested on the deck of a small transport ship, Lyra finally allowed herself to speak openly. "Alex, why do you trust me?" "Everyone else has rejected me." He looked at her serious and steady. "Because I see what others cannot. I see your courage, your intelligence, and your heart. You are not weak, Lyra, you are extraordinary." Her chest tightened at his words. She had always been alone in her thoughts, always doubted and dismissed. Yet here was someone who believed in her, someone who wanted to be by her side. It was a feeling both terrifying and comforting, but their growing bond did not go unnoticed. A spy from the council had observed their movements and reported back, painting the story as dangerous, an alien princess conspiring with a human. The council convened in the central palace chamber, their voices harsh and accusatory. "This human has no right to interfere," one advisor said, "and you, princess, have acted against tradition. You place our world at risk." Lyra stood quietly listening. The anger of the council was familiar, yet she no longer allowed it to overwhelm her. She had seen the results of her actions, the lives saved, the people inspired. "I did what was necessary to protect Zephyra," she said calmly. "Our duty is to our people, not to outdated customs." The council erupted in shouts, but Lyra remained steadfast. She would not bow to fear or rejection. Alex, standing beside her, gave her a small nod of encouragement. His presence strengthened her resolve. In the days that followed, Lyra and Alex continued their secret efforts. They moved from colony to colony, fortifying defenses, teaching local leaders how to manage emergencies, and quietly gathering information on the Draven fleet. Each mission was risky, but their teamwork was flawless. They trusted each other completely, and that trust became a foundation for a connection deeper than either had expected. During a particularly tense operation, a small attack fleet from Draven appeared sooner than predicted. Lyra had planned a diversion, guiding the enemy ships into a series of narrow cloud channels where their movements would be slowed. Alex piloted their transport ship with precision, following her instructions without hesitation. The battle was tense. Lightning storms crackled around the floating clouds, creating both danger and cover. Lyra's voice, calm and commanding, directed small defensive units. They moved swiftly, outmaneuvering the Draven ships and minimizing casualties. By the time the storm cleared, the enemy fleet had retreated and the colonies were safe. Exhausted but exhilarated, Lyra and Alex landed on a quiet plateau above the clouds. The moons hung low in the sky, bathing the world in gentle light. Lyra leaned against the railing, breathing deeply. "We did it," she said softly. Alex smiled. "Yes, together we did." Lyra looked at him, noticing the seriousness in his eyes. "Alex, I don't know what I would have done without you. You understand me in a way no one else does." He hesitated for a moment, then spoke. "Lyra, I believe in you. Not just because of what you do, but because of who you are. You are brave, smart, and kind, and you care for others in a way that I have never seen before." Her heart pounded. She had spent so long being rejected, doubted, and ignored, and yet in this human's words she heard acceptance, trust, and admiration. It was a strange, powerful feeling that filled her with warmth and hope. But reality was never far behind. The council continued to fume, and some advisors began plotting to separate her from Alex. They saw the human's influence as a threat to their control. Rumors began to circulate among the palace staff, creating tension and suspicion. Lyra knew she had to be careful, yet she also realized that hiding or retreating would not solve anything. She had to stand firm not only for herself, but for the people who depended on her. And she could not deny the growing connection she felt with Alex, a connection that went beyond strategy, beyond duty. One night, As they rested in a small observatory overlooking the city, Lyra spoke quietly. Alex, if my people will never accept me, then maybe there is another way to belong. Alex turned to her, his expression attentive. What do you mean? She hesitated, then met his gaze. I feel safe with you. I trust you, and I think I could be happy with you, even if the rest of Zephyra rejects me. Alex reached out, taking her hand gently. Lyra, if that is what you want, I will stand with you. Always. Her heart leapt at his words. For the first time she felt truly seen, truly understood. The rejection of her people no longer seemed like the end of the world. There was a chance for something new, something real. The days that followed were filled with more missions, each more challenging than the last. They faced storms, attacks, and political threats, but their teamwork never wavered. Each success strengthened their bond, and each challenge tested their courage. Through it all, Lyra began to understand something important. Bravery was not only in leading armies or outsmarting enemies. Bravery was in trusting others, in standing up for what was right, and in opening one's heart when the world had turned away. And Alex, steadfast and true, became a symbol of that courage. He did not judge her for being different. He did not demand she follow tradition or conform to expectations. Instead, he offered partnership, trust, and companionship, a rare gift in a world that often misunderstood her. As the moons rose again over Zephyra, Lyra stood beside Alex on the balcony of a small outpost. The stars stretched endlessly above, reflecting the soft glow of the city below. She felt a sense of peace, fragile but real. I don't know what the future holds, she said softly, but I know that with you I am not alone. Alex smiled. And I will not let you be alone, Lyra. No matter what happens, I am with you. For the first time in years, Lyra allowed herself to hope. Hope for the colonies, hope for her people, and hope for a future where she might find both purpose and connection. And as the twin moons of Zephyra bathed the world in silver light, she felt the stirrings of a daring idea, one that would change everything, if she had the courage to act. The night was quiet, but the world was beginning to shift. Rejection still lingered like a shadow, but Lyra and Alex had found something stronger: trust, partnership, and the beginnings of love. And in that quiet moment above the glowing clouds, Lyra knew that whatever the council said or did, she had found a path worth following, a path that could lead not only to survival but to a life she could truly call her own. The sun rose over Zephyra, casting long shadows across the floating palace. The twin moons had set hours ago, leaving the skies clear and calm, but the calm was only on the surface. Beneath it, tension hummed like a quiet storm. The council had discovered some of Lyra and Alex's secret interventions in the outer colonies. Rumors spread fast, whispered in corridors and gardens. The council viewed Alex's presence as dangerous, a human intruding into royal affairs, and they planned to confront Lyra. Lyra sensed the change immediately. Advisors avoided her gaze. Servants murmured under their breath, and even the guards seemed uncertain. But she refused to back down. She had seen the results of her actions: hundreds of lives saved, colonies strengthened, and hope restored to frightened people. She would not allow fear or tradition to dictate her choices. Alex arrived at the palace quietly, moving through the floating walkways with ease. His calm presence brought comfort to Lyra. "Are you ready?" he asked softly, his voice carrying only for her. Lyra nodded. "We have to meet them, but I want to do it carefully. We cannot let this turn into a battle in the palace." Together they approached the council chamber. The doors floated open as they neared, revealing the council assembled in rigid lines. Their expressions were sharp, faces carved with anger and disbelief. "Princess Lyra," one council member began, voice loud enough to echo through the chamber, "you have acted without approval. You have allowed a human to interfere in matters of Zephyra. This is unacceptable." Lyra stepped forward, her hands calm at her sides. "I acted to save lives. Hundreds of people would have been lost if I had waited for approval." "Lives?" another council member scoffed. "You think you know better than centuries of tradition? A human, an outsider, should not dictate our actions." Alex stepped slightly forward. "I only followed her guidance," he said. "All decisions came from Princess Lyra. My role was to assist, not command." The council murmured among themselves, their anger rising. They could not understand how a human and a princess had saved lives without their permission. To them, tradition and protocol were more important than results. Lyra took a deep breath, her mind racing. She had to find a way to speak their language, not the language of fear or power, but the language of reason. "I understand your anger," she said calmly. "But consider this, the colonies are safe. The people are alive. The enemy fleet has retreated. Our duty is to our people, not to customs or pride." For a moment the chamber was silent. The council did not answer immediately. They were caught between their anger and the undeniable truth of her words. But silence did not last. "This cannot be allowed," one advisor said sharply. "The princess must be reminded of her place, and the human must leave Zephyra immediately." Lyra's chest tightened. She had expected resistance, but she had not expected them to dismiss the bond she shared with Alex. Her heart beat faster, but she refused to show fear. "Alex is not leaving," she said firmly. "I trust him. I rely on him, and I will not allow your fear to dictate my choices. If you cannot accept that, then perhaps your view of tradition needs to change." The council erupted in shouts, but Lyra held her ground. She could see the faint admiration in the eyes of a few younger members, those who had seen the colonies benefit from her actions. Yet she also knew that many still viewed her as reckless and dangerous. After the council stormed out, leaving her alone with Alex, Lyra leaned against a railing, exhausted, but resolute. "They will never understand," she said softly. "Not yet." Alex placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we don't need them to. What matters is what we know is right, and I know you are right." Her heart stirred at his words. There was a closeness between them that had grown through shared risks, shared victories, and shared quiet moments beneath Zephyra's moons. It was a connection deeper than friendship, one that neither tradition nor fear could easily break. That night, Lyra invited Alex to the floating garden behind the palace. It was quiet, the glow of alien flowers casting soft light around them. The city below hummed softly, unaware of the battle between tradition and courage taking place above. "Alex," Lyra began, her voice barely above a whisper. I have something to ask you. Something important." He turned to her, attentive, his eyes reflecting the soft light of the garden. "What is it?" Lyra took a deep breath, gathering courage. She had never done anything so bold, and yet it felt necessary. "I have been rejected by my people," she said softly. "I have been dismissed, ignored, and mocked. No one sees me for who I truly am." Alex listened quietly, his hand brushing hers. "And yet," she continued, "you see me, you trust me, you understand me." Her voice trembled slightly. "If my people will not accept me, will you?" Alex's eyes widened slightly. I don't understand." "Accept you? What do you mean?" Lyra looked at him directly, her voice soft but steady. "I mean, I want to be with you. I want us to share our lives. I know it is unconventional, and I know it may bring anger, but—" "Alex, will you marry me?" The words hung in the air, fragile yet powerful. Alex was stunned. The human diplomats he had known rarely spoke with such raw honesty, and never with the weight of royal defiance behind them. He looked at her, searching her face, seeing the courage it had taken to ask. For a moment he said nothing. The garden seemed still, the glow of the flowers holding its breath with them. Then he spoke, his voice steady and warm. "Yes, I will marry you, Lyra. Not because it is expected, not because it is convenient, but because I believe in you. Because I trust you. Because I want to be by your side." Lyra's chest lifted, relief and joy flooding her. She had been rejected by her own world, and yet here was someone who believed in her completely. Alex's words were a promise not of duty, but of partnership, trust, and shared courage. The next day, the council learned of Lyra's declaration. The palace erupted in debate, accusations, and scandalized whispers. Some advisors argued that this bond could weaken the royal family, that a human could never understand the responsibilities of Zephyra. Others quietly supported her, admiring the courage it took to defy centuries of rigid tradition. Lyra and Alex prepared themselves for resistance. They knew their choice would not be easy, yet neither hesitated. They had faced storms, enemies, and disapproval together. And now they faced the greatest challenge of all, convincing a world that courage, love, and understanding could be stronger than tradition and fear. In the days that followed, Lyra and Alex moved with purpose. They continued their missions to strengthen the colonies, earning the quiet respect of some council members and the open admiration of the people. Each success was a silent message. Leadership is not about rigid rules or titles. It is about action, courage, and heart. Through it all, Lyra and Alex's bond deepened. They shared quiet moments in the glowing gardens, whispered plans under the twin moons, and supported each other in the face of doubt and opposition. Their connection became a beacon, not just for themselves but for the people of Zephyrah, who began to see that change, though frightening, could be necessary. One evening, after a particularly long day of overseeing defenses, Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Alex joined her, his presence calm and grounding. "Do you ever wonder if we are doing the right thing?" she asked quietly. Alex smiled softly. "I wonder if the world is ready for it. But I don't doubt that we are doing what is right, and that is what matters." Lyra nodded, feeling a surge of determination. "Then we will continue no matter what. We will protect the colonies, challenge the council, and build a future that is worthy of Zephyrah." Alex took her hand in his. "And we will do it together." As the twin moons rose over the city, casting silver light across the floating palace, Lyra felt a sense of peace. The council's anger still lingered, but it could not touch the bond she shared with Alex. They had risked everything to save lives, and now they were taking a risk of a different kind, the risk of love, trust, and defiance against tradition. And in that quiet, glowing moment, Lyra knew that no matter what challenges awaited them, she had found someone who would stand beside her through it all, someone who saw her not as a rejected princess but as a leader, a partner, and an equal. The stars above Zephyrah shimmered and the city below slept, unaware of the courage and love that had quietly blossomed above. The battle for acceptance and understanding was far from over, but for Lyra and Alex the first step had been taken, a bold step that would change not only their lives but the future of Zephyrah itself. The twin suns of Zephyrah rose high in the sky, casting a golden glow across the floating palace. The city below shimmered like a field of molten light, and for a moment it seemed as if everything was peaceful. But Lyra knew better. The council was furious about her bond with Alex, and whispers of rebellion and scandal filled the halls. Their relationship had challenged centuries of tradition, and some advisors were unwilling to accept change. Lyra stood on a terrace overlooking the city, her gaze firm and steady. Beside her, Alex adjusted his coat, watching her with calm determination. Together they had faced storms, attacks, and political resistance, and now they faced the council itself. "We cannot wait any longer," Lyra said softly. "They will try to force us apart if we do nothing." "We have to act," Alex nodded. "Then we act. Together." The doors to the council chamber floated open and the pair entered. The room was filled with the cold stares of advisors who had spent days plotting and murmuring. Their expressions were a mixture of anger, fear, and disbelief. "Princess Lyra," one council member said sharply, "your actions are a disgrace. You have defied centuries of tradition and allied yourself with a human. This cannot stand." Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm but strong. "I do not act out of rebellion or disrespect. I act out of duty. My duty is to protect the people of Zephyrah, and if that means working with someone who understands me, someone who can help save lives, then I will do so." Alex stepped closer to her side. "I have followed her guidance because it is the right thing to do. Together we have saved hundreds of lives, and we will continue to do so." The council erupted in outrage. Shouts echoed through the chamber, voices overlapping in anger and disbelief. Yet Lyra did not flinch. She knew what she had done was right. She had saved lives when others hesitated, and she had found someone who truly saw her, someone who believed in her courage and judgment. A few younger council members began to speak quietly, their voices hesitant but supportive. "She is right," one said. "The colonies are safe because of her strategies. Perhaps we should listen." But the older advisors were unyielding. "This is unacceptable," one shouted. "A human cannot influence our royal decisions. It is dangerous, reckless, and dishonorable." Lyra's chest tightened, but she refused to show fear. Instead, she took a deep breath and addressed the council directly. "You speak of honor and tradition. But what is honor if it sacrifices lives? What is tradition if it prevents progress and understanding? I am not asking you to abandon your customs. I am asking you to see the value of courage, trust, and partnership. Look at the colonies. Look at the people who survived because of action, not hesitation. That is the honor I serve. The room fell silent. Some advisors turned their faces away, unable to meet her gaze. Others remained stubborn, but the truth was undeniable. The lives saved, the colonies protected. These could not be erased by anger or stubbornness. Alex stepped forward. Lyra has risked everything for Zephyra, and I have been honored to stand beside her. I will continue to support her because it is right, because it is necessary, and because I believe in her judgment. Even the harshest voices faltered. They could not deny the results of Lyra's actions, and they could not ignore the courage it took to stand against them. Slowly, the tension in the room shifted. Whispers of admiration began to mix with the anger. Some younger council members nodded quietly. Others lowered their eyes in reluctant acceptance. Lyra felt a surge of determination. She knew this was only the beginning. The council's full acceptance might take time, but she had taken the first step. And with Alex by her side, she was ready to face whatever came next. Days passed, and the council slowly came to realize that Lyra's guidance had improved the defenses of Zephyra more than any traditional strategy had. The colonies were stronger, the people were safer, and even the advisors who had opposed her grudgingly admitted that she had succeeded. Yet the greatest challenge remained: the public perception of her bond with Alex. Many citizens had never seen a human, and the idea of a princess marrying one was shocking. Rumors spread quickly, and some groups protested openly. Lyra and Alex decided to address the people directly. A large platform was erected above the city, glowing softly in the light of the twin suns. Citizens gathered, curious, nervous, and unsure of what to expect. Lyra stood beside Alex, her posture confident. She had faced storms, fleets, and councils. This was no different, only a test of courage in a new way. "My people," Lyra began, her voice carrying clearly across the crowd. "I know many of you have doubts about my choices. I know some of you are worried about tradition, about what is expected. But I ask you to look at what truly matters: our people, our homes, our future. I have worked alongside someone who shares my vision, my courage, and my commitment to protect Zephyra, and together we have made a difference." Alex stepped forward, adding his voice. "I am not a ruler, and I do not claim to be. But I stand with Lyra because she is brave, wise, and kind, and I will continue to support her not for power or prestige, but because I believe in her and because I believe in what is right." A hush fell over the crowd. For the first time, the people could see the strength in their princess, the courage in their ally, and the bond that had been formed through action, trust, and shared risk. Slowly, applause began to ripple through the crowd. It was cautious at first, then growing stronger, until the sound of approval echoed across the floating city. Lyra's heart lifted. Even in the face of doubt and tradition, courage and integrity had won. She looked at Alex, who smiled back, steady and reassuring. Together, they had changed not only their lives, but the perception of the people they served. As the applause died down, Lyra addressed the crowd one last time. "Courage is not the absence of fear. Love is not the absence of challenge. And leadership is not the absence of risk. Together we can face the future, stronger than ever. Together we can protect Zephyra and build a world where bravery, understanding, and hope shine brighter than fear." The crowd cheered again, louder this time, their voices full of admiration and trust. Even the council members who had opposed her could not deny the truth. Lyra had led with courage, and the results were undeniable. Later, in the quiet of the floating palace gardens, Lyra and Alex stood together, watching the moons rise once more. The city below shimmered with lights, peaceful and alive, a testament to the work they had done. "You were amazing today," Alex said softly, taking her hand. "You faced them all and you did not falter." Lyra smiled, feeling the weight of relief and joy. "I could not have done it without you. You believed in me when no one else did." Alex's eyes softened. "I will always believe in you, Lyra. And now we can build our life together. Not just in secret, not just in missions, but openly, as partners, as equals, and as something more." Lyra's heart soared. She had been rejected, doubted, and ignored by her own world. Yet here she stood with someone who truly saw her, trusted her, and loved her. And together, they had changed the course of Zephyra's future. The days that followed were filled with celebration and adjustment. The council slowly accepted their partnership, recognizing the undeniable results of their combined leadership. Citizens began to embrace the union, inspired by the courage and integrity it represented. And Lyra and Alex, standing side by side, became a symbol of what was possible when bravery, trust, and love overcame fear and tradition. One evening, as they watched the sun set over the glowing clouds, Lyra turned to Alex. "We've done more than I ever imagined. The world still has challenges, but I feel hopeful. I feel whole." Alex smiled, holding her close. "We will face whatever comes next together. Nothing can break what we have built." Lyra rested her head against his shoulder, feeling the warmth and steady strength that had become her anchor. For the first time, she knew that rejection could not define her and fear could not limit her. She had found her place not because tradition allowed it, but because she had the courage to claim it, and because someone had the courage to stand beside her. Above Zephyra, the stars sparkled in silent witness to the union of courage, trust, and love. And as the twin moons rose high into the sky, Lyra and Alex looked toward the future, knowing that together, they could face anything and change the world for the better. The story of the rejected princess and the human who believed in her had reached its turning point. And in that turning point, the people of Zephyra saw something they had never expected: that true strength, courage, and love could inspire even the stars themselves.